Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to yet another episode of Rendezvous with CxO Global TV. My name is Anzar Saqib, and CxO Global Forum is a knowledge sharing platform for all C levels across the globe. We take massive pride in contributing to the knowledge economy with our League of Extraordinary Thought Leaders. They're not only domain experts, but those individuals that have made a considerable amount of difference in the fields that they're working in. Now, today we've got a very special individual with us. His name is Tim Blight, and he has been in Pakistan for more than 9 years now. He's a cultural ambassador. He has had a lot of experience as a traveler as well. He's been advising and consulting with different firms as far as I'm aware. And we're very, very excited to speak to you. Welcome to the show, Tim.
Thank you very much for having me here. It's great to be here.
Lovely. So, Tim, let's begin right at the top. So, where did you grow up? What did you study? How did you end up here?
I grew up in Australia, in Sydney, and I studied mostly humanities subjects. I studied a Bachelor of Arts. I majored in history, cultural studies, that kind of thing, and then I went on to study a Master's of Journalism. But really, my main passion is traveling, and I've actually visited 50 countries around the world.
Wow.
And that's sort of, I'm very lucky, I should say, to have visited 50 countries. And that sort of explains one of the reasons why I ended up here.
Brilliant. And what brings you to Pakistan? And tell us a little bit about your professional experience so far.
So I came to Pakistan as a backpacking traveler in 2006. Had an amazing time here, kept coming back. And it's been one of those things. A lot of people ask me why Pakistan. It's sort of the more times I kept coming back here and making friends, and I guess the more I started to feel at home here and see that I could live here. So that's that side of things. And in terms of the work that I've done, I've worked as an English language teacher here. I have worked on building curricula, I should say, for schools. I have worked with education companies before, putting them in touch with partner universities around the globe, and now with S4 Digital.
Brilliant. And what exactly does your work with S4 Digital entail?
That's a good question. So my job is, the position title is Cultural Ambassador. And there are always a lot of questions about that. What does a cultural ambassador do? And it was described to me initially as 1/3 marketing, 1/3 human resources, and 1/3 therapist. And wow. I know, so it's a bit of everything. I have been, I guess, my position is that of a bit of a wild card, that I am in S4 Digital to see things as from an outsider's perspective. As someone who has worked in a bit of marketing, a bit of HR, consulting and this kind of thing before, but not necessarily the technology field, that I would be able to lend a perspective that was perhaps missing or a bit underrepresented. And that obviously permeates marketing, because who are we marketing to? We are marketing to people who may or may not be in the industry. It goes into human resources, because ultimately the people who we work with are people who may or may not have been in the industry. And then the therapist part of it comes in when I get to meet staff from all around the world and have a chat with them and get to know how they feel in the organization. Sort of a bit of feedback, moral support for them, see if there's anything from the grassroots that could be changed at the upper levels or even throughout the organization. So it's an amazing role. I love it.
Right, makes sense. Now, since you have seen quite a bit of the corporate landscape and the startup culture in Pakistan, what are your observations so far?
So this sort of overlaps with my work and my passion of traveling, because obviously whenever I come to Pakistan, I always get asked, why Pakistan? And but happily that is changing nowadays. And I see that kind of theme reflected in the corporate and startup culture here as well, too. So I feel that for the longest time, Pakistan has been overlooked by many people, many potential investors, startups, even global companies looking to expand. And I feel that maybe now, I mean, whether history has gone sort of into a different chapter, or whether things in Pakistan have changed, or maybe it's just time. But I really feel that Pakistan's time has come. And I feel that there is so much potential here that is just waiting to be realized. And it's really, really exciting to be here. I sort of imagine it might have been, say, being in, I don't know, maybe in China, or maybe in Bangalore in India, maybe sort of 20 years ago. It's a really exciting time to be in Pakistan. It feels that things are really ramping up.
So we've heard a lot of people, a lot of Westerners keep saying that, this is the time to be in Pakistan and it is the land of opportunities. But where exactly do you see these opportunities lie? Are we talking about the startup culture? Is there an enabling environment? Are there particular fields to enter? Where do you see it? Where do these opportunities, these better opportunities lie?
I feel that the greatest opportunity in Pakistan, the country's greatest asset, is its people. And it's such a cliche, but I really do believe that. The creative potential in Pakistan is enormous. I know people myself who are just waiting to be, I guess, hired or given the opportunity or picked up or, sort of given a chance to sort of show their expertise and their I guess, for want of a better word, natural talent and passion. And for me, that's really where it lies. In terms of industries, I mean, the IT industry particularly, but I also believe that just across the board, that Pakistan's creative potential, artistic potential, outside the box thinking, out of the box thinking, I think that it's really an untapped market.
Oh, yeah, most definitely. Couldn't agree more. Now, we also know that a lot of the work that you've done is not just in terms of marketing and being a cultural ambassador, but also in your interactions with people, right? Now, whether it's people in the workplace or, if you're talking strictly in terms of social context. But I have a question that, a lot of people answer very differently. What do you think makes a good manager?
That is a good question. I mean, for me, it's interpersonal skills. And I would say perhaps this is a reflection of my job as a cultural ambassador, but perhaps this is why I got the job of cultural ambassador, because I've always believed that this was the case. I think that a good manager needs to have emotional intelligence. I think they really need to know what is going on in the company. And while a manager cannot always be on the factory floor, so to speak, in and amongst every single person, every single employee, they need to really understand what people are feeling and what's going on there. I think this is key for two reasons. I think the first is because obviously happy workers are productive workers and it makes the workplace a good place to be. But secondly, I think I've seen so many times where managers are not involved or they don't have their finger on the pulse of what their workers and their employees are feeling and going through and experiencing, and the issues that they may face and their achievements. And what often happens is that aside from the employees feeling underappreciated or undervalued or not heard, those employees will sometimes leave the company. They will sometimes behave in ways that you might not expect them to. And for those managers, it's not just a problem for them business-wise, but it's also sort of like a personal surprise as well. Like, oh, well, I was doing everything correctly. I mean, how did this even happen? I don't know. And I mean, really, had they just maybe taken the time to sort of think about how things are going, and I think they would have realized that, and it wouldn't have come as such a shock. So, I mean, of course, we talk about leading from the front or leading from, within the team and so on. I mean, these are all cliches, but there's a lot to say about that, because I really think that emotional intelligence, interpersonal skills, empathy, they are key, and especially in today's world where we are all working remotely as well.
Absolutely. So here's the thing. So building up on what you said, when we talk about being a good manager and having the interpersonal skills and having the empathy, do you think a good manager is someone that's more hands-on, or is someone that delegates?
I think that a hands-on manager is great for the employees to see. I mean, I certainly love it when I see my manager sort of, I mean, I hate to say this, lead by example. It's great to see your manager working. There's nothing worse than having a tough day, and then you walk into your manager's office to say goodbye at the end of the day, and he or she is just sitting there and they've been watching Netflix all day. So, I mean, it's infuriating as someone who works very hard. So, and it's not that they don't deserve it. I mean, we all deserve it, but I think a hands-on manager is nice to see. But back to your original question, I think that obviously delegation is part of business, it's part of management, and it is also important. I don't think that the key distinction is between hands-on or a delegator. I think that the key distinction is between one who understands their employees and one that isn't, that doesn't. Because even if you delegate things, there is a way to delegate. And if you are delegating things and then not understanding how the workers are feeling about those things, or the problems that they may be facing, or even if you're aware of them but you're not sort of recognizing or listening to them, then we have things where a certain task isn't completed in a certain time, and the manager is sort of, why didn't this happen on time? And I mean, there are reasons for that. So even a delegator, I think, can be empathetic. Yeah.
Right. So after all that serious discussion, I have something else that's a bit different. So I've got a rapid fire round here.
Okay.
All right. So I'm going to state a few phrases, and you're going to tell me the first thing that comes to your mind.
Sure.
All right. So you ready?
I'm ready. Set.
Number 1, artificial intelligence.
The future, huge potential.
Number 2, corporate surveillance.
Huge potential for overreach, but not necessarily a bad thing in and of itself. But be careful.
Ecotourism.
Again, the future, and I think a really exciting frontier in the tourism world.
Salesforce.
A group of people who are not simply a group of people, a platform, and so on, but it's about the people. I feel people who are passionate about sales, driving revenue, and really doing that. For me, it's the people.
Leadership.
One of the most amazing things if done well.
Right. Brilliant. You did very well, and we got some quick insights. Okay. Yeah, it's usually intense. But so moving on. Now, you did mention Netflix earlier, and I'm sure a lot of the audience members would be curious to know, what are your Netflix recommendations that sort of maybe inspire you, or any movie, any TV show that sort of had that impacted you to do better?
This is a bit of a curveball, actually, because I feel that what I enjoy on Netflix, this is so terrible to say, so everyone watching this, please don't think that I'm a negative person, but all of the things that I think inspire me are when you see stories of where things haven't gone well. And yeah, and I mean, it's a negative example to give, but I mean, recently I was watching a short series called Bad Vegan, and it's not so much about the management, but in a way it is about the management, because you see about how the management of a particular restaurant gets carried away by personal matters and that kind of thing, and sort of carried away not just by personal matters, but by matters that are, if I was to mention them here in the conversation, I'm sure everyone listening would just think, how is that even possible? How could you get carried away by that? But people do. So, sort of, it's a bit of one of those reality check moments, and remember to keep your feet on the ground. So that's something that I've watched recently, but I've watched a lot of different things on Netflix, actually. I don't know that I can pinpoint just one.
But that was a great example. And maybe here's how I see these things. When you watch shows where things haven't necessarily gone right, it kind of gives you a benchmark on what not to do.
I definitely. And actually, on that point, maybe a more positive example is one of a series that I really, really love, and I think the world is split on whether they love or hate it, but The Crown, which is a dramatization of Queen Elizabeth II's life in the UK.
I really enjoyed that one too.
I love it. But I mean, what I love about that is also it's whether it be historically accurate or not, what I love about it is sort of the lessons in leadership sometimes, because I know that in one part that she sort of, the Queen, the character of the Queen, says that her power lies not in always doing something, but sometimes in doing nothing.
Yeah,
and
forbearance.
Yeah, very much so.
That's so very important. So moving on. Now, if I were to ask you, what are the top 3 reasons that you chose to stay in Pakistan, what would they be?
My best friends here. I've got some amazing friends around me, and I'm very, very blessed to have that. Travel, and I've written a book about Pakistan, a travel guide to Pakistan. So that's out there. It's called Pakistan Traveler. And that's something which it's actually my life now in Pakistan, as well as partly my work. But I travel, I promote the book, I research about places to visit, and I'm passionate about helping develop tourism in Pakistan. And thirdly, let's say the food, shall we? I love it here.
Lovely. And what happens to be your most favorite dish locally?
Mutton karahi. If anyone wants to take me out for a business meeting, you are welcome to take me to Butt Karahi and order a mutton karahi, and you will have me there.
Brilliant. Sounds great. So it's been an amazing conversation. Unfortunately, running out of time for today's session. But on an end note, what do you think is the utility of forums like CxO Global?
I mean, I think that CxO Global, when I first, because obviously coming from outside of the corporate industry, having worked in education, I always just assumed that businesses, well, I guess I didn't even assume, I just thought about it. Businesses would just sort of develop in their own way, and occasionally people would get together, management would get together at particular forums, maybe organized by the government or so on. But what I've discovered with CxO is that it is this incredible network of management level people. And I say people because, I mean, that's at core what it is. It's networking opportunities. It's the chance to actually get to know each other, people who are really passionate about what they do. And I mean, actually, that's what's driving the industry. That's what drives growth and innovation. Of course, governments, chambers of commerce, and so on, certain things are hosted, events, and so on. But I mean, it's platforms like CxO that are really driving this growth. And I think that, I mean, when I heard that I was going to be interviewed by CxO, or by someone from CxO, I got really excited because it was like, this is where it's happening. So it's really exciting.
Thank you very much for the kind words, Tim. We hope to hear more from you in the future. Please keep contributing to the knowledge economy.
Definitely. This is, I really feel that my work with S4 Digital really is actually like, I feel ready for takeoff, to use a travel metaphor. So it's a great time to be part of the industry.
Absolutely. So thank you so much for your time.
Thank you so much for having me here.
Ladies and gentlemen, that's going to be all for today. And for those of you who enjoyed, please comment and keep us updated with your feedback. We really appreciate it. Please keep watching. And that's all for today. Thank you.